Hello everyone. When first Vajajaksu asked me if I'd like to give a talk on right livelihood, I said yes without hesitating because I was definitely the right person to give this talk. Not because I'm a perfect example, but because I hate my job, I've got very annoying colleagues, and I find no meaning in my job, so I'm definitely the right person to give this. Actually, the truth is it was a very good subject to reflect on because I really needed to go deep through this principle, this teaching. Actually, Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path are not new concepts to me. I've been reading materials on them over 3 years now, but during my preparation for this talk, I found out my perception was not wrong, but very restricted. So I was missing very crucial points. I'd like to start with why Buddha included right livelihood in Eightfold Path. Right livelihood is the fifth limb of Eightfold Path and is directly linked to community. Actually, Eightfold Path is one of the first teachings of Buddha, and it serves the purpose for us, the guidelines, the tools for us to attain enlightenment. But this specific teaching is also connected to the community, creating an ideal community. There's a very sensible reason why this specific thing is in the Eightfold Path, because almost all of us have to work, and it occupies a very serious amount of time from our lives. Besides, apart from time, it shapes us physically and mentally. For example, half of my family works in commercial banks, and they have to sit still fixed all day, every day, and they're very busy. They've got very stressful environment, so they have zero mindfulness for their bodies. So they've got back pain, neck pain. Some of them had to be operated from their necks. Sadly, I've got some colleagues and school friends. They had to work in very competitive major law firms, and I've watched them evolving from these corporate wild wolves. So they're very greedy, very self-oriented, so I find it very difficult to connect them because of that. So the profession affects us, even changes us, but which occupation can be considered as right livelihood? Buddha didn't give an extensive list, obviously, to do this, to avoid this, but he specifically mentioned some occupations to avoid. There are occupations involving death or suffering of sentient beings, such as human trafficking, slavery, trading in meat, etc. So I mentioned right livelihood, how we earn our life matters. First, it has effect on us, and it also shapes us, and it also regulates the connection with the society. But it's not that complicated then, as long as you're not a serial killer or drug dealer, or you're trafficking humans or human organs, selling human organs in black market, then okay, you're in line with right livelihood. But it's not that simple. Because Eightfold Path is not 8 commandments. Actually, they are just tools, just teachings to make sure we can evaluate things. Evaluate what is skillful, what is unskillful, but how do we make this distinction? Skillful action is if our action, if what we do, what we not do, has a good result in lessening the suffering of us and others. If action is selfless, if there's no ill will in it, if it's motivated by love and compassion, then our actions are skillful. Otherwise, it's unskillful. So during my research, I listened an interview with a Chinese man who said he's a Buddhist, but he was a butcher, retailer butcher. And he claims that his profession is not against right livelihood because he's not directly linked with killing. He doesn't work in a slaughterhouse. Therefore, he says, I'm just supplying a product, just satisfying a demand in society. If we use this mentality, then eating meat is also not against right livelihood or against it's skillful because you're not directly linked in killing. I don't know you, but in my opinion, it's definitely not skillful because by eating meat, by trading meat, you're definitely contributing to the industry. And while I was listening to Sangharakshita's talk, Sangharakshita is the founder of the Triratna Buddhist order, he was questioning whether advertising is skillful or unskillful, or can it be considered as right livelihood? Obviously, advertising doesn't involve killing or trading humans, but it surely creates unnecessary demand for products. Therefore, it encourages consuming, and whatever we buy that we don't need, actually automatically mean some people cannot afford their basic needs. It has some impact on the economy. Another example is if you're working in a shop selling several items, not all, but just some of them, manufactured by exploiting local farmers or using as child labor. Imagine many biscuits, many crisps include palm oil. We all know it has extremely harmful impact on the environment. In the past 16 years, the quest for palm oil has led to death of an estimated 100,000 orangutans. So do we need to quit our jobs if you're working in a shop like that? Again, it's not so simple, because in modern world, many businesses, many jobs are so connected to each other, it's almost impossible to stay 100% pure, to be definitely not involved in such unskillful behavior. In that case, our effort and intention matters, so we need to stay as skillful as possible. Sometimes even considering keeping right livelihood in our minds can make a difference. So what is a harmful job and how to deal with it? After listening those interviews with several people, some Buddhist monks, some lay people, and considering my job and my friends, I understood that most of us do not have harmful jobs actually. Maybe not all of them are meaningful, but mostly not harmful. So in my opinion, a job is harmful if it's extremely competitive, if it gives us no time to spend with family and friends, it leaves us no time for spiritual development, or only occupies our ego. So if it's absolutely not in accord within our heart and our ethics, in such situation, if we have chance, we can consider changing our jobs. Otherwise, it can make us really depressive or cynical. For a long time, I believed right livelihood means expressing your life purpose through your work. I thought my profession must have a meaning, must have a solid purpose to help people, to make change, to tackle slavery, or to serve human rights. That would be amazing if we all have such jobs, but it's not realistic. I mean, not all of us can be doctors or nurses or teachers. We don't need so many of them. Besides, I know my capacity, for example. I can't be a doctor. We all don't have such skills. And we certainly need people to grow our vegetables, drive our buses, produce our garments. So my personal approach developed in time, actually evolved in time, because I always wanted to be a lawyer since I was, maybe I was 5, but not because I wanted to bring justice to the world. I wanted to be a lawyer because it meant power, it was well paid, and it was reputable. So I was basically a very power-oriented person. But after having some crappy jobs, very underpaid, very low qualified, I thought if I can find a fine job, decent job with a good payment, I'll be definitely happy. That's what I need. Finally, I managed to find a rather decent job with a well payment, but it was a great shock to me because I was even more miserable then. Because it was actually what I wanted from the very beginning of my career, from even law school. But I was craving for meaning. I thought what I do for a living has no contribution to the world and other people in need. I thought a lot about this. Actually, I'm a lawyer. I can work for human rights. I can help poor people. I can bring some meaning to society. But then it was too late to make a career shift because I was over 35. I don't have any litigation skills. But honestly, I was really scared, because I didn't want to leave my comfort zone, my nice, well-paying job. So I was stuck in this job, in this profession, and it made me really depressed, miserable, and I was getting angry with myself. And I realized my craving for meaning in my life was arising because I was identifying myself with my job. Luckily, I managed to find different and more skillful approaches. During my research, I listened to Keturaja's talk. Keturaja is a Triratna Buddhist order member, and Eckhart Tolle's interview, Eckhart Tolle, maybe you know him, he's a very famous author. He's got a bestseller book, Power of Now. So they both suggested that we can use workplace and relationships at work, difficulties in work, work environment as tools for our development. So at this point I would like to share my difficulties and how I dealt with them mindfully, hopefully. I'm sure most of us have a difficult person at work. God, he's very difficult. He's conservative, sexist, I don't want to use that word, but he hates women. Me, a woman over 35, single, living on her own, traveling on her own, I had no chance to but be an enemy to him. He couldn't stop picking on me. He likes discouraging me, insulting me in front of other people, and I spent so much time hating him. I couldn't help myself, and this was really getting on my nerves. I thought about quitting my job many times. But after learning metta meditation, I used this type of meditation as a tool in order to not to hate him. Let me tell you about metta meditation, maybe some of them don't know about it. In this meditation method, we cultivate love and compassion to us and to other people. During one of the stages of meditation, we bring to our minds a person who we cannot get on well, who causes discomfort to us. So this person is called as difficult person. And slowly I realized he was very stressful. He is also stuck in his job, trying to provide food to his family. He looked very miserable, and I understood he actually wanted wanted us to show him some respect, and he didn't know how to do it. He thought the only way to gain respect from others was intimidating them, showing that he's very powerful, he's very strong. And after that I tried another approach because I was doing my best to avoid him, and I was extremely nervous around him, and he obviously felt that. And he was bullying me more and more because of that. So I started talking to him, looking him directly in his eyes. Just daily chit-chat. I know he's very passionate to coffee, so I started asking him if I can have some of his coffee and how much I love coffee. So we had a type of connection. I'm not saying I like him, he still gets on my nerves, but I think he understood that I'm a similar creature like him, so I'm also a human being, not an object in the office. Something very surprising happened actually. I asked the afternoon off several weeks ago because I had operation for my wisdom tooth. He told me don't worry, it's just fine, don't be scared, you'll be fine. And next day he came to my room and asked, how do I feel, was it okay? And everybody was shocked. It's just serious silence in the room. And after he left, they were like, are you friends now? It's actually a very normal, very human thing, but we're so not used to it. So this experience made me to understand I shouldn't take everything personally. And by changing some minor things at work actually make me and others suffer less. My second difficulty was actually being a vegetarian. I know it doesn't make any sense, but in a legal team with 30 members, I was the only person they ever seen in their lives who doesn't eat meat. So they couldn't stop questioning me and mocking me and bullying me just because I don't eat meat. I never understood this, why I'm getting on their nerves, but so they questioned why do I eat lettuce and vegetables because they're also living beings. I think I spent 3 years to explain them why actually I eat vegetables but not meat. So I said, why am I not using scientific facts, because it's very easy to prove how serious thing animal farming, animal industry, how cruel, how harmful things. So I started sharing statistics, scientific facts with them, news, articles. So after a while they stopped harassing me, they understood my point. I don't think they agree with me and they'll ever agree with me, and they still don't like me because they can't go to Nusret for business dinners because of me. But I'm still happy because they won't be bothering the next vegetarian they meet. So another thing I learned from Eckhart Tolle is work is a canvas to practice presence. if you bring awareness in your work, you will feel more alive in daily activities, and often other changes will follow. He says we can use work as background for our presence. So, for example, we can eat our lunch mindfully, do one thing at a time, take spacious moments every now and then, take deep breaths, start being mindful wherever we are, rather than playing with our mobile phones. Actually, mine, because I never can stop playing with my mobile phone. Actually, I do this very regularly at the office. As Vajraksu stated, I shut myself in the toilet, do 3 minutes of breathing space, which is very short meditation, takes only 3 minutes, but it makes a huge difference. I started listening to Dharma talks during lunch breaks, rather than listening colleagues gossiping or talking about shopping. Another thing we can easily practice is being kind to others. That was actually very challenging for me, because I've got very egoistic environment. So part of my job includes coordinating external councils with branch managers. So these branch managers are all over the world, and they always phone me and they want to be on top of my priority list, although I've got thousands of other things to do, so they can be really annoying and pushy. I was also being difficult with them, but I understood that that's not helping me at all. So I stopped, not because I wanted to be kind, but I was really tired. So instead I was just listening to them. I let them to speak. After a while I understood they're being rude to me, not because they wanted to be rude, but they were very anxious, very stressful, very scared, because they're in different cultures, different countries. They don't know what to do. Some of them can barely speak English. So I also used another approach with them. I said, okay, I understand you're nervous, but we can solve this. Just don't be cruel on me. I'm not on your side. So that also worked. Another thing about mindfulness, another thing about actually right livelihood, I never considered this. So doing your work, doing your task to the best in your ability is new to me, because what I thought, I can go to a meeting, half listen to it, half play with my mobile phone, surf on the internet, but this is definitely not skillful. So you need to be really engaged into your work, because no matter what, I don't like my job, I don't like being there. That provides my life, so I have to be respectful to my job. So that was something very new to me. Actually, there's a note here, it's embarrassing. I even watched a movie during a training from my iPad, and in brackets, it was a good movie. Another thing about me being not mindful, as I said, I was just chatting during the meetings and during my drafting contracts, but suddenly something major changed. 2 or 3 senior members quitted or fired in the same month, so suddenly I find myself a senior lawyer and 2 juniors assigned to me. So I had to be mindful. I was so panicked because there was no one checking on me. Besides, I had to check others and teach them how to do things. This was actually not my job. I'm not a trainer, but these juniors relied on me, relied on my input, because they're not provided enough training. Actually, this was really annoying and difficult for me, but then I realized I actually don't have enough explanations to provide them. Why? Because I was doing many things consciously. I thought I knew them all, but actually I was not super competent. So in order to teach them, I had to get involved more and more in the job. And it made a huge difference. I mean, I learned a lot in the last 2 years, more than my 10 years career, because I was doing one thing at a time and I was being really mindful to my work. So even if we don't like our jobs, since it enables us to provide our lives, we need to do it properly, carefully and mindfully. So there was another aspect which was surprising to me. What you do matters, but how you do also matters. 2 examples here. A plastic surgeon and a man working in a slaughterhouse. It's very easy to make the distinction. Plastic surgeon is a doctor, saves lives, so that's a skillful job. If you're working in a slaughterhouse, you're killing things, you're killing animals, so obviously it's unskillful. But Imagine a doctor as a plastic surgeon working in plastic surgery industry, performing operations to make their patients to look like celebrities in whatever fashion industry finds trendy. Is this right, livelihood? So the man working in a slaughterhouse, imagine he's a vegetarian. So why is he working in a slaughterhouse? Because he wants to be there for the animals, provide last comfort to animals in their last minutes, make sure they're less terrified. So this is actually a very selfless behavior. I mean, I couldn't do that. Even I love animals, I couldn't take so much pain. So which one's skillful? So I leave you to decide. So I have a friend who always says, don't worry about your job, it doesn't matter what you do, it just pays the bills, there's no meaning in the job. I never believed in that approach. Firstly, what you do for living matters for you and for others because it has significant effect on you, positive or negative, and also other human beings. Therefore, we need to evaluate our occupations. As I said, it's not possible to be 100% pure, especially in modern world, but we have to evaluate how much our profession affects us. Is it absolutely not in accord in our hearts, in our beliefs, in our life principles? Is it seriously against our ethics? Is there a way to perform this task ethically, make any change? Does it allow us to grow spiritually, or does it occupy all of our time and energy? And after these questions, if we still think we have to change our jobs, I know it's not easy because I still can't do it. Sometimes we have to accept earning less. I know, again, this is not the case for most of the people because they have to live lower standards anyway. Like me, if you're not ready to make any career shift, at least we can try practice mindfulness, metta and kindness and generosity at work. Because we cannot change the world. I finally understood this. Maybe we can't make significant contribution to society, but there's nothing preventing us being kind and skillful at work. Personally, my biggest lesson was not to identify myself with my profession. I learned how to separate my identity from work. So instead, I start to measure myself on how do I do my work, how do I interact with other people and also myself, how well do I support my co-workers, especially the young colleagues. Thank you for listening.